Salutations. So we are doing another installment of Poetry and Prayers. The piece today is actually more of a narrative essay. And again, it's from the book. Uh, we Rise, We Resist, We Raise Our Voices. Edited by Wade Hudson and Cheryl Willis Hudson, and forward by Ashley Bryan. And it's, they're all contemporary writers. And this book is right here in the library, public library, and I'm certain it can, wherever you, well, this is specific. It's supposed to be for my daughter. I'm opening it up to share it with other people, but she's in Virginia. I'm certain that it's in the libraries there as well. And anywhere that, if you may poke your head in and just, poke your head into the Fruitful Lotus and decide that you want to listen in on this particular video, definitely go out to your local public library and see if it's there. If there's a bookstore or on Amazon, order it. It certainly would be a book that I would love to have in my personal collection for my daughter. But this book is Dark Brown Skin is Beautiful, and it's written by Eleanor E. Tate, and the photograph is by Chester Higgins Jr. Now, I'm going to do what I didn't do the last time, which is I read the bio, but I read it after I read the thing, read the poem, and so I'm just going to start it off. And y'all work with me as I get, come to a more specific format for each segment, kind of working through it. So you'll find that some of them seem more organized than others. I'm trying to keep them brief as well, so I'm a work in progress. But here we go. Eleanor E. Tate is the author of 11 novels and numerous short stories for middle grade readers. Her award-winning books include Just an Overnight Guest, adapted into a television film, The Secret of Gumbo Groove, Thank You, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., A Blessing in Disguise, Front Porch Stories, At the One Room School, and Celeste's Harlem Renaissance, an IRA Teacher's Choice. A Drake University graduate and a longtime journalist, she was an instructor with the Institute of Children's Literature and taught children's literature at North Carolina Central University and in Hamline University's Writing for Children and Young Adults MFA program. The South Carolina State House and Senate cited her for her literary and community activism in 1990. She's also a Zora Neale Hurston Award recipient, the highest award given by the National Association of Black Storytellers, and is a former national president of the organization. If you'd like to know more about her, you can go to eleanortate.com. And so this is her picture here. I don't know if you can see it that well. But so Niaja. And so I kind of got off on the last couple videos. I've been kind of talking a little bit, speaking a bit more lofty, and forgive me for that. This is really supposed to be a children's, but I guess it can also be a support for parents looking for ways to increase reading comprehension, or looking for ways, because most times young readers have to do a book log, and sometimes one of the ways you increase comprehension is by getting the reader to engage the material. So it's not just about reading with your child, it's about asking questions and kind of figuring out, okay, well, did you like that, or what did you like about it, or what was the big idea, or what were some of the themes. So even as they begin to write and they begin to have questions about what was the author's purpose, or why do you think, what was the big idea, or what was the theme, or what was the moral lesson, so those are some of the questions that teachers are trying to get the students to kind of answer, either through comprehension questions or through discussion in class, or to have it reflected in the stuff that the writing that they're starting to do as well. And so this is a great way as a parent to be able to be a support to your child. And so, I don't mind if it gets a bit more complicated, because the children can listen to the poetry, and then you can get the questions, and anything that they don't understand, they can listen to it more than once. And yeah, so I'll get right into reading. So again, it's Dark Brown Skin is Beautiful. Dark Brown Skin is Beautiful. Eleanor E. Tate, written by Eleanor E. Tate and photographed by Chester Higgins Jr. In my novel, Thank You, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., fourth grader Mary Eloise Avery is dark-skinned. Not dark-skinned like mega singers Beyonce and Nicki Minaj. Dark-skinned like actresses Lupita Nyong'o and Viola Davis. And writers like me. Dark brown skin is beautiful. Know it, claim it. Yet too many dark brown skinned girls are bullied and ridiculed. Marie Eloise Avery wishes that she has pinkish tan skin like her new white classmate Brandy has, or at least light brown skin like her nemesis Libby Burns has. Marie Eloise's mother has even called her an ugly old black thing. You can try to defend yourself from other kids by fighting back with words or fists or trying to ignore the dark skinned verbal abuse, but when your own relatives in your own home call you ugly black thing or charcoal or blue black or ruined, crow, and worse names, what can a kid do? Sometimes relatives defend their insults by saying such name calling is keeping it real or that this verbal abuse will toughen you up. Yeah, right. My mother and sister were light brown skinned. Mother would say, we never held it against you that you were dark. Well, thanks, but my mother would also say, you're so dark. Your face is so greasy. People don't like dark, greasy colored girls. Because I was so dark, she said, I couldn't accomplish anything that girls of a lighter hue could. So I shouldn't even try. It didn't matter that I was smarter and more ambitious than many of them. I learned something from my experiences. By the time I turned 15, I had developed a simple, secret, radical plan to get away from my mother's perpetual dark skin beatdown. I claimed the beauty of my dark skin. I studied hard. I got a little part time job. I saved my money. I learned practical skills. I cried a lot, but I kept on trying. By the end of my book, Mary Eloise Avery learns from her experiences too. Although she's still young, she learns about skin color and self esteem. We have to learn to be our own best friends first, her dark skinned grandmother, Big Mama, tells her, and do what we can to work on being good to ourselves. This is my hope for you. Be good to yourself. Keep loving your dark skin. Prepare for your present and for your future by affirming your self worth now, not based on skin color or any other superficial or shallow or physical standards, but rather affirm it in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. If you can survive your relatives' in home bullying about your skin color, you will surely survive out in the world. I did. So now, growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was always a thing about skin, and, if you are at all familiar, and this is to parents or maybe high school, or even if you're in college, um, the whole Willie Lynch syndrome and the idea of colorism as one of the dominant intersections for discriminatory practices and prejudice. What does that mean? That colorism within our community, being able to say light skin against dark skin, or, all of those kind of things to kind of say that that's what makes um, that's what that's what makes us creates divisive measures within slaves. And I think that, you know, either way, you have to be beautiful because you have self actualized. And I know for myself, a big part of the self hate and what's psychologically called internalized inferiorization, meaning you have a lesser or a lowered or diminished self esteem based on internalized messages that you've received over time. So some of it can be in music, some of it can be in negative comments from people you love, some of it can be developed as a in response to rejection, and some of it can just be based on stuff that you're working through. Because it's the way you see yourself. We have a natural tendency to compare ourselves against others. I'm a dark skinned woman. I know that for a while I still, I struggled quite a bit with my complexion. I struggled with what my image of beauty was. I had to grow into being able to accept that I have fuller lips, that my cheekbones are higher. And there are things that, I used to watch America's Next Top Model just to listen to the critiques. And some other shows, like they used to have this fashion channel show, and I would listen to them, just listen to how they critique. Because if you want to be an artist, which, I from very early on, I wanted to get comfortable being able to hear the critiques, like what would people say, and being able to look at myself from the position of a casting director and say, okay, what would they see if I'm trying to get around typecasting? If they were to look at my face, what kind of roles would they say that would best suit me, and how can I challenge that? So, it was kind of me working through myself, and some of it was too just processing the fact that I still sometimes look at myself and feel like if I'm dark skinned or my lips are bigger or women start, and the interesting thing is that even sometimes in affirming, a woman's beauty and say, oh, she's beautiful dark skin, but it's still that she has to be voluptuous or very full figured or, very curvaceous, I should say, not necessarily full figure, but curvaceous. She's supposed to have these unrealistic measurements where she has this little tiny waist. Even if you listen to the song Brick House, she has this little tiny waist, but she still has, is voluptuous and has big hips and all that kind of stuff like that. And I think the idea is that it's not any physical attribute can be appreciated, but your mind and heart has to be acknowledged and encouraged to cultivate it, and so let that be the source of your beauty. And that doesn't have to be contrary to the external beauty. It's not, these are not oppositional concepts. You can be beautiful on the outside and on the inside, and we have said that colloquially for years, but it doesn't necessarily manifest, because when we think someone is beautiful, what usually it begins with some physical feature, and then you dig deeper to find the other stuff, and the same thing, or someone may be beautiful on the outside but not be as beautiful on the inside. And so when you have internalized inferiorization, or if there's self-hate or negative internal dialogue, it can really muddy up and make murky, the very living waters that abide in you through Christ and through your relationship with Christ. It is a thing that will make sure that you never thirst for anything, any sense of acceptance, any sense of belonging. And so use it to flesh out every negative idea, every insult, and replace it. And I know it's hard work, because it's work that's ongoing, and everyone needs to feel accepted. Everyone does. And believe me, you may be looking at this person and say, oh, they have a lighter hue, or she has a darker hue, or whichever way, and you're comparing and saying that must make her prettier, or that must make him, what. Believe me, we all have stuff we're working through. There's this movie Amy Schumer has, and it's called I Feel Pretty. And the amazing thing is that even though it's a white woman dealing with her issues of beauty, what you find is that it's the same thing. She's looking at body image and more like, oh, well, I'm bigger, or what. And she meets this girl that looks like almost like a model, and she's like, "What are you crying? Someone broke up with you?" And so it's very interesting. If you're dealing with any kind of measures of self-esteem, I Feel Pretty. It's funny, but it really tackles a very complicated concept of identity. So again, I Feel Pretty. It's Amy Schumer. Um, but either way, that kind of goes away from. I mean, not necessarily, because when you look at intersections, we can talk about race, you can talk about gender, you can talk about socioeconomic status. Sometimes we can identify just on race, sometimes it might be gender, and sometimes it may be socioeconomic status. And I think in this, while the discussion is race-based and talking about colorism within the Black community, I think that this idea of identity and how we see ourselves as beautiful as women um, can connect with the movie I Feel Pretty. And again, it's Amy Schumer, and it's more around gender. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and do the prayer, and that'll be it for this video. That'll conclude this video. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. So if you are that Samaritan woman waiting by the well of color, hoping to be filled either with validation or acceptance, understand that you have already been filled with the water of the Most High God through His Son, um, uh, through Christ consciousness, and understand that we all, as we vibrate higher and we work on accessing that well that does not run dry, we shall forever be filled, and in being filled, find ourselves absolutely beautiful, because God is a God whose word will not return back void, and it's been promised that beauty comes from ashes, and every piece, every instance of fire or circumstantial, fire, fiery place that we've been in has only made us more beautiful. So if it's bullying, if it's not feeling accepted, if it's feeling rejection, whatever, understand that it only makes you that much more beautiful, and you are beautiful. So with that said, I love and appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome day. Take care. Peace. I love you.